So, if you're part of that small group the size of a small church congregation that saw my HydroCap video, you may have recalled that I said this. As sort of a stepping stone as to get Rogers back into the mantle of Captain America, and also coming off the heels of Civil War, which I'm going to review at some point. It may not be this month, it may be when it comes out on DVD and Blu-ray, but it's sometime, okay? I have insightful things to say about that film. How much disappointment it was. Yeah, this hasn't been the most ideal summer. Let me just say that, no, I don't hate Captain America Civil War. In fact, as the genre stands now in contemporary cinema, I'd say it's one of the best superhero films released in the last decade. While that joke was largely exaggeration, it did convey a little hang-up I did have about the film, mainly with its aspects of being an adaptation of, not just Marvel Comics, but the Civil War event from 2006 in particular. Even though Avengers Age of Ultron wasn't even in theaters yet, Marvel announced that the next Captain America film would concern the mega event, where great irresponsibility would cause the ensuing government-mandated legislation of superheroes to split the Marvel Universe down the middle politically. Sort of. You see, I was expecting the adaptation of the story to actually say something meaningful about the superhero genre and how we approach things like crime, violence, and tragedy in the world, and specifically in America. And when I first saw the film this May, I thought that it didn't really have anything to say on those things. Or it just wasn't the movie I thought I was going to get. The fall previously to the film's release, I took a college class that dealt with the superhero genre of fiction in popular culture. The course went from Joseph Campbell and the monomyth, the peak popularity of the American Western cinema in the last century, and a large chunk of the superhero's impact in popular culture in media, but specifically in comics from Siegel and Schuster to Moore and Bendis. An important takeaway that I took away from that class is the ideologies that superheroes adopt that stem from an actual real-life dichotomy of the frontier myth, as it were, which sort of links to Joseph Campbell's The Hero Myth, but that's another video entirely. From what I remember, and also I'm totally butchering this, it goes that most of the times the heroes we see in fiction usually fall in one of two camps when tackling an oppositive other force. In this case, the liberal, do the thing by the book hero, and the conservative, take charge and do things my way sort of hero. Pick any superhero and you might find who fits into these distinctions, but keep in mind that these don't mean liberal and conservative in terms of governmental politics of the world. Not really in any case. The Civil War event from the comics, from what I hear of it, sounds like it had a great idea to make into a story, but flubbed up the storytelling part. And also the philosophy, and the politics, and the characterization, and everything else. Art was good though. Tell me this doesn't sound great. Recklessness of superheroes caused them to forcibly take the more, in this sense, liberal side of heroism, and two factions emerge because some prefer not to do that. Great setup, of course, with opposing ideologies to go about protecting the world, clashing amongst each other being the meaning behind kick-ass superhero battles. But from what I hear, the story has stupid little details and that the creators intended to have the pro-registration side win and be right about the whole thing, and I think things were pretty bad otherwise. That's what I hear. I don't know. I don't have the time to read for a time-sensitive video, guys. So when hearing about the comics adaptation to the MCU, with the Russo brothers returning to direct after the excellent Captain America the Winter Soldier, I was hoping for not only a good movie, but a smart, focused dissertation with the same exact setup and conflict, minus a large scope and cast of characters for obvious reasons. And after watching it, I knew I got a good movie, but thought I didn't get the film that I was promised with the context and the title that comes with a Marvel movie about a war engulfing civility. The film details the Avengers being demanded to be run by the United Nations at their bequest after an African run-in with a classic Cap baddie Crossbones turns sour and kills several people, including some diplomats, due to the negligence of Scarlet Witch and Cap when handling a suicide bombing attempt by the mutilated mercenary. After some discussion about the proposition with the team and Tony Stark back at their headquarters in America, Bucky Barnes is framed for bombing UN embassy that kills several more people, including the Wakandian King and father of the Black Panther, and then the movie becomes about Bucky and him factoring into Zemo's plan to unleash the world in disparity in some way, and then the bill, the main thing that is supposed to drive the plot of Civil War, is largely utilized as just an obstacle for Cap and friends to get by. Just a reason for the heroes to be split in the first place as a brief setup backstory thing, and that's it. When I came out of the theater, I was disappointed a bit, and while I thought the movie was one of the strongest tales out of the entire MCU canon thus far, I was conflicted. I felt like I got something that was dumbed down for a mainstream movie audience. I felt like it wasn't sophisticated as it could have been. The movie lingered around in my mind as an example of a great genre fiction movie that tried, but fell short of being truly something meaning and life-changing for the canon and many, many people, fans and newcomers alike. I wondered if history, when looking at the MCU, would point out Civil War as one of its historic tentpoles. I assumed that would be most likely the case, and that thought made me disappointed in nerd culture and just the culture at large.
I was wrong about you. The whole world was wrong about you.
Mr. Stark would like to avoid the possibility of another public incident until the Accords are on a more secure foundation.
And what do you want?
For people to see you as I do.
But then people started to point out things about the movie and how these big details made the film special, not just in the scope of superhero films, but films and storytelling in general. They told of how the film's climax started just as the main conflict with Zemo was revealed and over with. How both intrinsic and extrinsic issues don't get solved with a simple fix, and not even a superhero brawl at that. How Marvel took a chance with pitting arguably its two biggest heroes at the time when people were chattering if moviegoers would accept, to them, a ludicrous idea. I mean, Batman v Superman tried and was marketed as the same thing and failed, but at least those two are the Jesus and Moses of our time and their pop culture presences extend way farther. Cap and Iron Man only became super popular within, the last decade? And then I started to see the things in the film. How Captain America and Iron Man briefly switched from those two ideologies from the majority of the movie to after the unveiling of Bucky as the murderer of Tony's parents, which was beautifully set up from the beginning of the film to its payoff at the end.
Wait, Tony. Shit. I just did you know. Yes.
It wasn't him, Tony. Hydra had control of his mind.
Move!
It wasn't him!
Do you even remember them? I remember all of them.
This isn't gonna change what happened.
I don't care. He killed my mom.
How I appreciate the philosophies being challenged in that the characters had character. How Tony has the capacity to be a functional person but still struggles with his perception of himself and his influence on the world.
I'm trying to keep you from tearing the Avengers apart.
The scene with the mother in the hallway upon further inspection was brilliant in regards to Robert Downey Jr.'s portrayal of an eccentric person wanting to do good by people but not knowing exactly how or being comfortable with it. And I like the fact that every entity in this film, on every side, has a complex and relatable, but perhaps not exactly ethical reason for doing what they do in the narrative. How many stories have you heard in your life that do that? And all of that is happening in a film where Spider-Man swings alongside a 10-story tall dude in a suit trying to crush spy agents, army personnel with James Bond-like gadgets, and a robot that can walk through walls and shoot laser beams. Upon closer inspection, the film actually portrayed the spirit of this type of story quite well. The Iron Man team is registered and works with the government. The Captain America team works independently from and sometimes against the government. The film just chooses dealing with one sinister villain with a mission instead of a whole universe filled with him, which is ultimately a better choice for a movie, especially a Captain America solo film. With Bucky being the driving force, it employs these ideas but applies them to this one smaller issue, and the film knows about it and doesn't lose sight at the big ideas that the situation is implying. At the end, the main conflict just concerns 3 people, just not a universe spanning hundreds upon hundreds of heroes. Captain America Civil War is not my most ideal superhero film or story in general, but there is a grounding for a constructive conversation about these issues here. To have all that in a blockbuster film that's bound to gross $1 billion worldwide isn't anything to scoff at. People, perhaps for the first time, are slowly starting to understand why me and so many other people like to indulge in this stuff from time to time, and I couldn't be happier. While I do push for more media and entertainment with more specific and intellectually meaningful messages, but I need to ask myself, would I hate a film that had a view that was in opposition of my views as a person? Perhaps not hate, but I would most certainly respectfully disagree with it. I'm not really cross with, say, like Eastwood's American Sniper, but you know what? I would at least be a little bit more respectful and tolerant with films by Harold Kronk and Dinesh D'Souza if they were made competently. God's Not Dead and its sequel are pieces of dog crap, by the way. With the recent Captain America films and TV shows like Daredevil, Stranger Things, and Steven Universe, you know what? Maybe I will marry the cartoon. Thanks for asking. These things are what we need in the world right now in order to process what we need to fix in society and force us to act upon it. We must get the masses thinking, because that's the only way to enact change in any way. I'm earnestly glad with what Civil War tried to do, because we need a foundation in order to produce these kind of films, and the only way that people make meaningful content, art, is that if they try, is that if they keep trying. The relationship of failure and success isn't exactly a binary. Captain America Civil War isn't a perfect film, but I'm glad it exists. Also, that doesn't mean we can't indulge into something silly or something that has a basic understanding of the worldview or just doesn't have much to say. This spring's Deadpool was pretty much a fattening tray of Krispy Kreme donuts that just spat sex jokes at you. But you know what? I enjoyed every creamy bite of those donuts. They were tasty. Yummy. So, I just want to say, I'm sorry about being wrong about a really great film. I don't know, maybe I'm making too much of a big deal out of this. I recommend that you would check the film out and also maybe indulge these concepts that I've been talking about in this video. I'm always willing to hear other people's opinions, especially this year. I just encourage people to talk about it. We'll get somewhere better. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this year, but somewhere better. I'm Maximum Austin, and until next time, keep being confident and you enjoy your day.